The series starts with a high school girl named Jane, who has a major crush on her classmate Chan. She tries everything to get his attention, but he rejects her, saying he doesn't feel the same way. Despite his rejection, Jane doesn't give up and keeps following him around, hoping one day he'll notice her. One day, while Chan is walking around the school, Jane accidentally bumps into him while cleaning a stair rail. She apologizes, but it's clear that no matter what she does, Chan never seems to get upset with her. Jane continues pursuing him, even though he remains distant and uninterested. In class, Jane's best friend Jin, who has a very loud and annoying voice, sings obnoxiously, bothering her. She playfully tells him to stop being a rock star and hushes him. At school, Jane isn't the most diligent student. She often cheats off Jin's homework and consistently scores poorly in her classes. One day, her teacher calls her out for her low grades, telling her to start putting in more effort if she wants to pass. At that moment, Chan walks in, and Jane feels embarrassed that he witnessed her being scolded about her grades. Later, Jane continues to stare at Chan throughout the day. Noticing she's down, Jin tries to cheer her up by inviting her to hang out, but she's too upset and declines. As the day goes on, Jane sees a beautiful girl asking Chan for help with schoolwork, and jealousy kicks in. She asks Jin, "Is that girl prettier than me?" Jin, in his usual blunt way, says, "Well, she is taller and prettier." This only makes Jane more upset, and she snaps at him. Jane then heads to the bike rack, knowing Chan always passes by to pick up his bike. She prepares a snack and drink for him and practices how to give them to him. However, Chan takes longer than expected, and she ends up falling asleep while waiting for him. When Chan finally passes by, he sees her asleep and leaves without waking her. In another scene, Jane is in class while the teacher explains a lesson about love. Inspired, Jane decides to write Chan a love letter. Just as she's deep in thought about what to write, Jin sneaks up on her. He claims to be an expert in writing love letters, boasting about receiving 1,000 of them himself, which, of course, is an exaggeration. Amused by his confidence, Jane lets him help her write the letter. Jin suggests such beautiful words that Jane is convinced Chan will fall for her after reading it. The next day, Jane practices reading her love letter out loud as if Chan is right in front of her. A new student named Dai overhears her and teases her about her loud voice, warning that others might hear her too. Embarrassed, Jane quickly heads to her English class where she zones out, daydreaming about her letter. During the lesson, the teacher calls Jane to the front to solve a problem on the board. She freezes at one word she can't spell, feeling embarrassed because Chan is in the same class. Out of nowhere, Dai comes to her rescue, helping her spell the word. He introduces himself to the class, and everyone is impressed by how handsome he is. To ease Jane's embarrassment, Dai makes small talk with her afterward. Later, Jane helps Jin by delivering a letter to a girl he's interested in, but a rude student intercepts the letter and reads it out loud, embarrassing Jin. Together, Jane and Jin try to walk away, but the other students start bullying them. A classmate named Yoon-ji steps in to defend them, but one of the boys from the other class tries to hit her. Before he can, Dai steps in, pushing the guy away. The teacher arrives, threatening to punish everyone, so the students run off. Jin is left holding hands with Yoon-ji, feeling a spark of admiration for her. On another day during class, Jin gets distracted from his exam, writing a love letter instead. A nosy teacher grabs the letter and reads it out loud, embarrassing Jane once again. As the teacher continues reading, the students begin singing the words because it turns out the letter's content is actually song lyrics that Jin wrote as a prank. Everyone laughs at how Jane was tricked by Jin's so-called love letter expertise. Feeling guilty, Jin apologizes and offers to make it up to her by treating her to sushi. Jane, amused by his antics, accepts. After school one day, Jane thinks Chan has already left, but to her surprise, he's still waiting by his bike. Overjoyed, she runs over to join him. As they walk home together, Jane is grinning from ear to ear. Chan asks why she's smiling, and she replies that she's just happy to be walking with him. As they ride together, Jane quietly wonders if Chan already knows about her feelings, even though he hasn't read her letter yet. The next day at lunch, Dai puts his food in front of Jane and tells her to eat it since he's on a strict swimming diet. Chan watches this unfold from afar, feeling a pang of jealousy. Jin suggests they all hang out together after school, and despite Chan's usual cold demeanor, they all end up having fun, except for Chan, who remains distant and aloof, quietly observing from the sidelines. After they hang out, Dai is happy with the day and invites everyone to his upcoming swimming competition. They all agree to go, but when they spot a teacher approaching, they get scared and rush to grab their bikes to leave. However, Jane can't find hers. It's been stolen. To help her avoid the teacher, Dai offers her a ride on his bike, and they quickly escape. Chan witnesses this and feels a surge of jealousy, as he's starting to develop feelings for Jane but doesn't want to show it. Later, Jane tells her mom that her bike was stolen, and her mom gets upset, threatening to punish her. Jane hides behind her dad, who calms her mom down, promising they'll buy Jane a new bike by the weekend. In the meantime, Jane comes up with a plan to walk to school every day, hoping to run into Chan and ride with him. But when she heads out the next day, her legs start hurting from all the walking, and she doesn't see Chan at all. Instead, Dai spots her by chance, offers her a ride again, and promises to give her lifts until she gets a new bike. Jane thanks him, and they head to school together. At school, the teacher gives Jane a paper to read aloud, and she realizes it's written by Chan. As she reads, she learns that it's a personal story about the last time Chan saw his father, during a meal they shared together. Jane is deeply moved by the story and feels sad for Chan, who is visibly upset. After school, Jane tries to comfort him by inviting him over, saying her mom has made his favorite meal. But Chan, still feeling down, declines and tells her to take his bike instead. He leaves, heading to the last place he saw his father, lost in his memories and missing him deeply. Later, Jane and her friends attend Dai's swimming competition, cheering him on to win first place. Unfortunately, Dai comes in second, and he's visibly disappointed. During an interview, the reporter asks how he feels about the result, and although he's sad, he brightens up when he hears Jane cheering for him, reminding him that second place is still a good achievement. He echoes Jane's words in his response to the reporter, feeling more content with his performance. Afterward, Dai goes to the locker room where his coach scolds him for being too happy with second place, insisting he needs to work harder to win first next time. Dai stays quiet, taking in the criticism, and later runs into Jane. He playfully invites her out for a meal, joking that she'll want to eat her fingers afterward because the food is so good. But Jane politely declines, saying she's really busy today. Dai, trying to lighten the mood, gives her his silver medal as a token of appreciation for her support, promising that next time he'll trade it for a gold one. Jane thanks him, encourages him further, but explains she has to leave because she's late for the memorial of Chan's father. Jane rushes over to Chan's house, only to find that he's already set everything up himself. He's upset that she's late and tells her he doesn't need her help, which hurts her feelings. She angrily drops the things she brought for him and leaves. Feeling guilty for how he spoke to her, Chan regrets his actions. Later, Jane is at home eating with her parents. Her mom starts talking about Chan, wondering how his mother could leave him like that. Jane's dad gets irritated and reminds her that everyone has their reasons, suggesting Chan's mom might be really busy. He then hands Jane a box, asking her to take it to Chan. When Jane arrives at Chan's house, she finds him asleep. She quietly approaches and places her hand on his forehead, realizing he has a high fever. Worried, she prepares some cold compresses for him and sits beside him, keeping an eye on him while thinking about how beautiful his mother was. She gets so close to his face, almost about to perform CPR, but Chan suddenly opens his eyes. Embarrassed, Jane quickly checks that he's okay and then leaves. The next day, Jane meets Chan and asks how he's feeling. Instead of answering, he offers her a ride on his bike, which surprises and delights her. She hops on, and they head to school together. Once they arrive, they head to gym class, where Jane hears from Jim that she's planning to run for class president, which surprises everyone since she's not great at school and often falls asleep in class. Jane leaves to practice her speech for the election, feeling nervous and unsure of herself. Dai tries to encourage her, but she playfully chases him off after he teases her. Chan, seeing Jane with Dai, feels jealous again. In class, Chan notices the names of the class president candidates written on the board: Jane, his friend Ji, and Yun. Yun asks him for a favor, but before he can respond, Jane stops him and asks him to trust her and vote for her in the election. When it's time for the speeches, Jane is visibly nervous and struggles to speak, but with the encouragement of her friends, she gains confidence and delivers a great speech. The students cheer for her, but the voting results show that she lost to Yun by just one vote. Later, Chan is asked who he voted for, and after a moment of hesitation, he admits he voted for Yun. This makes her the class president, while Jane is elected vice president. Afterward, Yun thanks Chan with a gift for his vote, and Jane sees them together, feeling upset. Some classmates start teasing Jane, but Dai stands up for her, putting his arm around her and telling them off. As Chan walks away, Dai confronts him, asking why he didn't vote for Jane. Chan simply says she wasn't fit to be class president and walks off. Jane, frustrated, kicks Chan's leg and runs off to tell her friends what happened, explaining she did it because he didn't vote for her. Later, Ji gives Jane the money for the new uniforms and tells her that, as vice president, she's in charge of collecting money from the other students. Jane collects all the payments, but later realizes she left the money in a book she gave to the teacher. Panicked, she tells her friend, who suggests sneaking into the teacher's office to get the book back. However, they find out the strict teacher is inside the office, and they lose hope of retrieving the money. Feeling defeated, Jane sits on the stairs, unsure what to do next. Chan notices her and asks about the money. She tries to act tough, claiming she still has it. Chan leaves, but Jane stops him, admitting that she left the money in the book and asking for his help. She apologizes for kicking him earlier, but Chan just smirks and whispers in her ear, teasing her before telling her to get the book herself and walking away. Frustrated, Jane wants to punch him but holds back. In class, Jane is nervous when the teacher asks if she collected all the money. Unsure how to respond, she starts to panic. Just then, Chan walks in and hands her the book with the money inside. Relieved, Jane takes a moment and decides to confess her mistake to the teacher, admitting that she lost the money, but Chan found and returned it. She also offers to resign as vice president, feeling she doesn't deserve the position. Some students criticize her, saying she was never fit to be vice president in the first place, calling her careless. Jane feels upset and doesn't know how to respond, but the teacher steps in, encouraging her and telling the class that everyone makes mistakes. The teacher praises Jane for being brave enough to admit her error, which makes Jane feel proud. The students no longer hold it against her. Later, Yun asks Jane if she has some money to buy a gift for her dad's birthday. Shin tells Yun-ji that she also wants to buy a gift for Chan, but doesn't have enough money. Ji overhears them and shares that the school is holding a competition between the classes, and the winning class will receive a lot of money. Excited, Shin and Yun-ji decide to enter the competition to win enough money for their gifts. The next day, they start training for the competition, but Shin struggles with the obstacle course. Dai sees her struggling and offers to help, showing her how to get over the hurdles. However, he fails miserably, knocking everything down and making a fool of himself. They laugh it off and head to the library to study for the competition. There, Dai teases Chan after spotting him reading a dating book, which makes everyone laugh. Shin later approaches Chan and asks if he can train her to overcome the obstacles, but he brushes her off and walks away. Frustrated, Shin turns to Dai, who agrees to help. He writes some tips on his hand and motivates her to keep trying. Shin gives it her best shot, but still struggles to clear the hurdles. Meanwhile, Yunzi is training hard with her team. Ji decides to join in their practice, but during training, Yunji falls, injuring her leg. Her friends rush her to the school's medical clinic, worried about her condition. The doctor tells them that Yunzi won't be able to continue in the competition because of her injury. Upset, Yunji fears she's letting her team down, but her boyfriend Jin reassures her, promising they'll find a replacement and still win the competition. Later, Shin heads home and calls Chan, telling him about her day. He's happy to hear from her and appreciates that she shares everything with him. The next day, Shin continues training but still struggles with the obstacles. Chan sees her failing over and over again, so he steps in, offering his hand to help. Shin is surprised but thrilled and eagerly accepts his help. They train together, with Chan giving her pointers, and she starts improving. Meanwhile, Dai is training as well, but his coach scolds him for slacking off and spending too much time with the girls at school. Dai finishes his practice and realizes he's late for the competition. The competition finally begins, and Shin's class barely makes it through the rounds. When it's Shin's turn, she still struggles with the obstacles, looking a bit silly in the process. Despite her fumbles, her team manages to win in the end, and they receive the prize. However, they're shocked to find that the prize money is much less than expected. Confused, they confront Ji, who admits he got the amount wrong and mistakenly told them it would be a huge cash prize. The amount turns out to be very small, and everyone gets annoyed with Ji frustrated by his mistake. Although they feel like lashing out at him, they hold back. Later, Yoonji realizes she's running late for her father's birthday, so she decides to leave early. However, she's nervous about getting caught sneaking out of school. She comes up with the idea to jump over the school gate, and her friends help her out. Just as she's about to jump, they see the strict teacher approaching, so her boyfriend Gino distracts him. Thanks to his help, Yoonji successfully escapes. As she's leaving, she runs into another kinder teacher who notices that her pants are torn. He kindly gives her a shirt to tie around her waist and reassures her, saying he trusts she's not up to anything bad. Grateful for his understanding, Yoonji is relieved and continues on her way. Later, the school announces an upcoming play, and Shin starts preparing for her role. She practices hard, and her father, noticing her dedication, surprises her with a new bicycle and supports her efforts in the play. The next day during class, the teacher asks the students to choose the lead actor for the play. Shin is eager to suggest that Chan, with his charismatic personality, join the play. However, her classmate Yoon beats her to it and asks Chan first. Chan replies that he'll think about it, leaving Shin feeling upset that she didn't get a chance to ask him herself. Determined, Shin finds an opportunity to speak with Chan alone and tries to convince him to take the role. However, he awkwardly declines and walks away, leaving her disappointed. Undeterred, Shin continues to try to persuade him during class, even tossing him notes. Despite her efforts, Chan remains uninterested. After class, he heads out to get his bike, where he finds a script for the play that Shin left on his bike as one last attempt to win him over. Chan, frustrated, throws the script back onto Shin's bike and walks away. Shin later finds the discarded script and feels disheartened. The next day at school, the teacher notices that Chan hasn't joined the play and mentions it to the class. Yoon quickly seizes the moment and suggests that Chan join their team since they need one more person. This leaves Shin feeling upset and frustrated, as it means she won't get a chance to work closely with Chan. Later, Shin is sitting with her friends when Dai joins them. He invites her to his house to practice their lines together, and Shin agrees. At Dai's house, they're interrupted by Dai's grandmother, who is pleasantly surprised to see Shin. She's delighted and insists on making them something to eat. After their practice, as Shin is about to leave, Dai thanks her for her support and encouragement. They hang out together, getting along well. Dai even playfully ruffles her hair, and just as this happens, Chan spots them from a distance, feeling jealous and irritated by what he sees. Then the day of the play arrives. Chan gives an impressive performance, and there's a surprise moment where he's supposed to give the leading actress mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Everyone in the audience is shocked, including Shin, who becomes flustered and messes up her scene. However, her friends quickly cover for her, clapping and pretending that everything was part of the script. The audience believes it, and the situation passes without any trouble, saving Shin from embarrassment. After the play, Dai helps Shin clean up after water spilled on her clothes. He brings her fresh clothes to change into, but Chan, overhearing from a friend that Shin is in the dressing room, rushes in with his own set of clothes for her. When he sees Dai already helping her, he becomes furious and jealous. In his frustration, he insults Shin, calling her useless and dumb before storming out. This leaves Shin devastated, and she breaks down in tears. She goes home and continues to cry, replaying Chan's harsh words in her mind. The next day at school, the strict teacher scolds her for being late again and accuses her of not taking her studies seriously, which only deepens her feelings of humiliation. When she enters the classroom, her friends greet her, but they can tell she's upset. She sits quietly, looking visibly down. At that moment, Ji begins teasing her, but Dai steps in, grabbing Ji by the collar and forcing him to apologize to Shin. Afterward, Dai reassures her, telling her that if anyone bothers her again, she should let him know. Grateful, Shin thanks him. Soon after, one of the girls in the class approaches Shin and starts making snide remarks, saying that if she were in Shin's place, she would have transferred to another school because of how much of a failure she is. This deeply hurts Shin, and she walks out of the classroom holding back tears. Chan sees her looking upset, and guilt washes over him for the way he treated her. He feels terrible for how things have turned out. Later that day, he considers sending her a message to apologize, but he hesitates and never sends it. That evening, Shin is sitting with her parents, and she tells them she wants to transfer to another school. Surprised, they ask if someone has been bullying her, but she insists that it's not about that. She explains that she feels she doesn't measure up to the other students who are much more hardworking and dedicated than she is. Her parents are saddened by how discouraged she feels. The next day, Dai sees Shin walking and offers her a ride. During their conversation, Shin asks what would happen if she actually transferred to another school. Surprised, Dai stops his bike and looks at her with concern. He tells her not to transfer, but if she does, he promises to follow her to the new school so they can stay together. Sensing the seriousness of the situation, Shin plays it off as a joke, saying she was just teasing, and they continue on their way. Later, while Shin is in class, Dai calls her with a surprise plan to lift her spirits. He invites her to join him at the pool, and when she arrives, she's surprised to see that he's set up the pool just for them to have fun. He even has a small boat for her to ride. They play around and have a great time, but their fun is cut short when the coach walks in and yells at them for making a mess of the pool. Embarrassed, they quickly get out, trying to hide their shame. Later, Shin's mom visits Chan's mom for a chat. Shin's mom visits Chan's mom to talk about Shin. She mentions that Shin wants to transfer schools and that they've already found a new one for her. Chan overhears this from his room and is surprised by Shin's decision. He considers sending her a message, but once again he hesitates and decides against it. On another day, while Shin is in class, Ji comes up to her and tells her that her parents are meeting with the teacher in the staff room. She leaves the classroom to see them, and during that time, Chan tells her friends about Shin possibly transferring schools, which shocks them. They sit down with Shin and ask if she's really sure about her decision. Shin feels conflicted, unsure of what to do. As they continue to question her, Chan suddenly bursts into the room, sweaty from running. He makes an excuse, saying he came to pick up the students' books from the teacher's room. The teacher comments that there are too many books for one person to carry, so Chan asks Shin to help him. She agrees and they leave together. On the way back to class, Chan stops and asks Shin not to leave the school. She is taken aback by his request, but also overjoyed because it shows that he wants her to stay. She decides to remain at the school, and the first term comes to an end, making way for the second. One morning, as Shin is about to leave for school, she's surprised to find that Chan is waiting for her, offering her a ride on his bike. Excited, she hops on, and they head to school together, with Shin feeling over the moon. When they arrive, they sit with their friends. Jin announces that he's planning to enter a singing competition and asks them to help and support him. At first they refuse because Jin's voice is terrible, but after some pleading, they agree. They all go with him to his audition, and sure enough, his singing is awful, leading the judges to kick him off the stage. Afterward, Jin suggests that they all spend the night out together to relax. At first, Yeonji protests, saying her parents wouldn't allow it, but Jin insists and proposes a vote. Everyone raises their hands in favor, so Yeonji reluctantly agrees. They decide to rent a place to stay for the night, and after securing a spot, they call their parents to inform them of their plans. At that moment, Dai receives a call from his coach, who scolds him for skipping training and demands to speak to his father. Panicked, Dai hands the phone to Jin, asking him to pretend to be his dad. Jin, trying to disguise his voice, talks to the coach, but the coach quickly realizes it's not Dai's father and hangs up. Jin, trying to lighten the mood, tells Dai to forget about the coach and enjoy the night. Reluctantly, Dai agrees and starts to relax. As they sit around talking, they notice a shooting star in the sky. Everyone makes a wish, except for Chan. Shin, curious, asks why he didn't make a wish like the others. He explains that a shooting star is just a light in the sky and doesn't grant wishes. Afterward, they go for a walk, and Chan asks Shin about her wish. She admits that she wished for him to like her the way she likes him, but quickly adds that she took it back, knowing that he probably doesn't feel the same. Still, she confesses that no matter what, she'll always like him. And even if she ever says she hates him out of frustration, he shouldn't believe her because she could never truly hate him. Chan laughs and playfully teases her, and they end up having a good time together. Later, they all play a game similar to Truth or Dare, where each person writes down a secret on a piece of paper. The papers are shuffled, and everyone picks one randomly. Yeonji reads her paper and finds that it says someone likes the girl with long hair sitting among them. Shin reads her paper which says that someone has a crush on her. She's surprised and looks around, trying to figure out who wrote it but has no clue. However, she secretly hopes it was Chan. Jin suggests they all keep the papers as mementos, and they continue enjoying the night together. The next day at school, Shin tosses a note to Chan asking if he wants to hang out on Saturday. He throws a note back, agreeing, which makes Shin incredibly happy. Moments later, Jin and Yeonji approach Shin and invite her to join them on Saturday. She declines, explaining that she already has plans with Chan to watch a match. After school, Shin asks her mom for money to buy tickets for the game, but her mom refuses, saying that if she gives her the money, they won't have enough for food. Determined to go, Shin decides to find a part-time job. She goes around looking for work but is turned down at every place she tries. Feeling discouraged, she decides to try one last place, a burger shop. To her surprise, Dai is working there. When he sees her, he invites her to sit down and chat with him. Shin tells Dai that she's looking for a part-time job, but she hasn't had any luck so far. Dai is curious and asks why she wants to work, and she dodges the question, saying she just wants to buy something. Then she brings up the note from the game they played earlier, making Dai nervous. He doesn't admit that he wrote the note saying he had a crush on her, and instead jokes that he wrote about how much he likes burgers. Shin is happy to hear this because she assumes that Chan must have been the one who wrote the note about liking her. Later, Shin's dad surprises her with 2 tickets for the match, and she's overjoyed, thanking him excitedly. She heads to the stadium and calls Chan to let him know where she is. When Chan arrives, they go to hand their tickets to security, but they're shocked when the security guard tells them that the tickets are fake. Shin tries to explain, saying her dad paid a lot of money for them, but the guard insists they're counterfeit, even though they look pretty good. Disappointed, Shin asks the guard to double-check, but it's no use. Chan tries to comfort her, saying they don't need to watch the match to have a good time. Meanwhile, back at home, Shin's dad is talking to her mom, bragging about a great deal he got online, 2 tickets for the price of 1. And they're thrilled with the bargain, not realizing the tickets are fake. Shin and Chan sit down to chat, and she asks him what he wrote in the note during the game. He teases her, saying it's a secret he can't share. This frustrates Shin, and she insists on knowing. Finally, Chan pulls out the paper and hands it to her. When she reads it, she sees it says, "I don't want to play this game." Shin remembers back to the game and realizes that Dai was the one who wrote the note about having a crush on her. Feeling confused and a little upset, they get up to leave when Chan suddenly wishes her a happy birthday. Shin is delighted that he remembered her birthday, and they joke around, spending a fun evening together. When Shin gets home, she reflects on everything, still unsure about how to handle the situation with Dai. The next day at school, she runs into Dai but feels too embarrassed to face him and quickly rushes into class, leaving him puzzled by her sudden change in behavior. Later, Shin confides in her friend Yeonji, showing her the note and explaining everything that happened. Yeonji advises Shin to give Dai a chance, pointing out all his good qualities. He's athletic, a great swimmer, good-looking, and even earns money from the competitions he wins, so his life is pretty comfortable. But Shin still isn't convinced, as she's more attracted to Chan's charisma. Feeling conflicted, Shin decides she needs to talk to Dai and be honest about her feelings. She heads to the pool to meet him, and when Dai sees her, he's thrilled. They sit down, and Shin tells him she knows what was written on the note. Dai notices how tense and uncomfortable she is, and realizes that she doesn't feel the same way about him. Trying to ease the tension, he plays it off, saying he was just joking because it was only a game. Shin is relieved and laughs, telling him it's a good thing he was joking, and assures him they'll always be like siblings. This upsets Dai, but he hides his feelings, pretending to take a call from his coach and excusing himself. Though he walks away acting happy, he's actually really hurt. During swim practice later, Dai can't shake his sadness. The next day, when he goes to the school shop to pick up some supplies, he remembers Shin's words about being just like siblings and feels down. To mask his emotions, he buys juice for all his friends, trying to seem normal. As he passes out the drinks, he watches Shin and Chan together, clearly happy and growing closer, which makes him feel even worse. As the school year ends and graduation day arrives, the students take turns reflecting on their positive memories from school. When it's Shin's turn, She stands up, feeling incredibly nervous. Her friends cheer her on, helping her calm down. She talks about Dai's achievements in swimming, mentioning how popular and talented he is, as well as praising her friends for their accomplishments. Everyone in the class claps for her, proud of how confident she has become. After the ceremony, Shin and her friends hang out, laughing, joking, and playing games, celebrating their graduation. Shin walks alongside Dai, who notices she's cold and offers her his jacket. As he does this, Chan sees them and gets jealous. He pulls Shin toward him, pretending to warn her about an oncoming car, which is just a small car with a dog inside. It's obvious he just wanted an excuse to hold her. Shin walks off after Chan, leaving Dai feeling even more frustrated because, despite everything he does for her and how well he treats her, she remains attached to Chan. Afterward, Shin sits with her friend and her dad, who teaches them how to make a scarf to keep warm in the cold weather. Shin's mom notices a letter next to her and realizes it's a love letter. She takes the letter and shows it to her husband. The letter starts with, "My love," which makes Shin's dad furious. He demands to know who the boy is that stole his daughter's heart, but Shin's mom calms him down, pointing out that there's no name on the letter. She convinces him to wait and find out who the boy is later. Reluctantly, her dad agrees. The next day, Shin's mom sees Chan on his way to school and asks him if Shin has been spending time with any boys or if she's interested in someone. Chan smiles to himself, thinking he's the one, but he plays it cool and says he hasn't noticed anything like that. Just then, Shin shows up, and they leave together for school. At school, Shin sees her classmate making a scarf, and she feels a bit jealous because the scarf looks really nice. Shin shows her friend Yeonji the scarf she's been working on to give as a gift to Chan, but Yeonji is surprised by how badly it's made. She suggests that Shin give him a wish bracelet instead. Shin is excited by the idea and decides to do that instead. Later, when Shin enters her classroom, she sees her classmate giving Chan a gift, and this upsets her. She hopes Chan won't accept the gift, but he does. Feeling hurt, Shin leaves the room. Chan notices her walking with Dai, which makes him jealous and frustrated. During the next class, Shin can't stop thinking about the gift in Chan's bag, assuming he took it from the other girl. Her friend tries to cheer her up, reminding her that Christmas is tomorrow, and suggests she find something nice to give Chan as a gift so she doesn't lose him. But Shin refuses, saying she's upset with him and won't give him anything. At home, Shin searches for the love letter she had written but can't find it. She calls out to her parents and asks where it is. Her dad hands her the letter and teasingly asks, "Who's this my love you're writing to?" Shin gets nervous and quickly lies, saying she was just trying out a new pen and didn't mean anything by it. Her mom is relieved, thinking they misunderstood, but her dad remains suspicious and doesn't fully believe her excuse. The next day at school, Shin is shocked to see Chan wearing the scarf her classmate had made. She remembers when the girl gave it to him and assumes it's from her, which makes Shin even more upset. She walks away, feeling sad. Dai notices her mood and asks what's wrong, but she brushes it off. Dai then talks about how he kept checking the weather forecast, hoping for snow, because he wanted to experience the magic of a snowy day. But no snow had fallen, leaving him disappointed. Suddenly, he gets an idea and rushes to the rooftop of the school, where he starts spraying fake snow over the students to lift their spirits. Everyone is thrilled at first, but they soon realize it's not real snow. When they discover Dai was behind it, they appreciate his effort to make them happy. Just as they're cleaning up the fake snow, real snow begins to fall and everyone cheers, excited to play in it. Later, as Shin walks with Chan, she sneezes and he wraps his scarf around her to keep her warm. However, Shin pulls away, telling him she doesn't want the scarf because it's from her classmate Yun. Chan explains that the scarf is actually from his mom and she made it herself. Realizing her mistake, Shin is overjoyed to know the scarf wasn't from Yun. She softens toward Chan and asks him to close his eyes. When he does, she surprises him with a wish bracelet and a love letter. Chan notices the bracelet is too long and jokes that it looks more like a necklace. Shin takes it from him, wraps it around his wrist, and laughs. Then Chan reads the letter and finds out Shin has written that she loves him. Overjoyed, because he feels the same way, they both laugh and share a happy moment together. Sometime later, while they're at school, their teacher announces a school cleanup day followed by a camping trip and barbecue afterward. Everyone is excited about spending a fun day together. As they're leaving school, Shin imagines herself creating a romantic atmosphere for Chan and daydreams about him confessing his love for her. Inspired by this thought, she decides to make her fantasy a reality. Shin starts counting her money, getting ready to surprise Chan. Dai notices and asks why she has so much cash. She tells him she's planning a surprise for Chan and needs to buy some supplies. He takes her to a store where they buy all sorts of decorations, lights, candles, and other festive items. Just as they finish shopping, Dai gets a call from his coach telling him to head to the pool because the national team coach wants to see him. Dai excuses himself from Shin and leaves. The next day, it's volunteer day at school, and Shin sticks close to Chan the whole time, following him around. Feeling smothered, Chan eventually leaves to find a spot to rest. When Shin sees him lying down, she goes over and lies next to him, staring at him until he wakes up. Both are startled and feel awkward with their hearts racing as emotions run high. Meanwhile, Dai is at the pool with the national team coach, who praises him for his hard work and tells him he's on track to qualify for the Olympics. Dai is over the moon with excitement, along with his personal coach. Later, the students and teachers are gathered around for a barbecue. Yoon tries to get closer to Chan by asking him to open a bottle for her. He does, which makes Shin jealous. She grabs her own bottle, clearly frustrated. Chan notices her anger, so he opens her bottle to calm her down. But Yoon is persistent, trying every way she can to get Chan's attention and affection. Later, Shin asks Chan to meet her in 5 minutes on the path. She heads out first to prepare a romantic setup with her friends. When Chan approaches, her friends scatter so he doesn't see them. Just before Chan reaches Shin, Yoon stops him, holding him up. As Shin's friends turn on the lights for the surprise, Yoon panics and clings to Chan in fear of the sudden brightness. Shin, waiting for Chan, is confused by his delay and looks over to find Yoon holding on to him. She misreads the situation, thinking Yoon is making a move, which breaks her heart. Tears well up in her eyes just as Dai arrives. He tries to comfort Shin, telling her to ignore them. But Chan sees Shin with Dai, and the sight of them together shocks him. Afterward, Dai offers to walk Shin home. As they're walking, they run into Chan, which makes Shin leave them in frustration. Dai approaches Chan and confronts him, telling him he has feelings for Shin and wants Chan to respect her emotions. He warns Chan not to lead her on if he doesn't love her and to stop hurting her. Dai then leaves, leaving Chan to reflect on what was said. Shin, overwhelmed with sadness, tears up the drawing she made of Chan and decides to move on from him. The next day, Chan asks Dai to help him make things right with Shin after realizing he had hurt her. Dai agrees and takes him to a store where they buy a bunch of things for a reconciliation attempt. Later, Chan sneaks into the classroom where Shin is sleeping and leaves the gift bag next to her. When Shin wakes up, she accidentally knocks the bag over, unaware it's from Chan. Dai walks in, sees the bag, and asks if it belongs to her. Shin says no, so Dai realizes it's from Chan. Feeling bad for Chan, Dai picks up the bag and hands it to him, but Chan, frustrated that his plan didn't work, angrily throws it at Shin. Later, while Shin and Dai are together, Yoon bumps into them and Shin yells at her. Chan arrives and defends Yoon, telling her to go back to her class. This angers Shin even more and she storms off, cursing at Chan. Dai follows her and manages to calm her down. In the meantime, Yoon tries to steal the answers to an exam, but their strict teacher catches her in the act. She denies everything even though she's caught red-handed with the papers. Word quickly spreads around the school that Yoon was trying to cheat her way into college without studying, exposing her true character to everyone. The next day, Chan asks Dai for another chance to reconcile with Shin. Dai suggests he play the piano for her. Chan sends Shin a message, asking her to meet him in the music room. When she arrives and sees him playing the piano for her, she's overjoyed that he's trying to make amends. They patch things up and reconcile. At the end of the day, while they're walking home, they overhear other students talking badly about Yoon, saying she steals exam answers and will likely continue cheating even after she gets into college. Shin feels a sense of relief and justice, but as she's walking, Dai shows up with his bike and offers her a ride, surprising her with another plan. Chan sees Shin riding off with Dai and feels frustrated that after all he's done to win her back, she's still spending time with him. Dai takes Shin to an amusement park where they play games and have a lot of fun. Shin enjoys the day and feels genuinely happy. After they finish, she tells him that she's finally rid of the tension she was feeling, and he's happy for her. Then he gets a message from the coach saying he's coming to the hospital, so he heads there. When he arrives, the doctor informs him that he can no longer continue competing in the swimming championship due to his shoulder injury, as it would be too risky. He's devastated by the news and doesn't know what to do. The next day, he takes Dee, and they go to the school store, buying her a lot of stuff. He tells her it's all to lift her spirits, leaving Shane surprised. She jokingly says, "So, you're rich now, huh?" To which he responds, "Of course, I could buy this whole store if I wanted to. Charisma, you know?" Later, Shane sits in the library reading a romance book, feeling very happy. Chan joins her, sitting by her side, and just as he sits down, Shane gets up, wanting to leave. But Chan grabs her hand, asking her to stay and continue reading. She does, and she's still happy. Chan, seeing her happiness, gently adjusts her hair in a tender moment, which shocks and embarrasses her, but she's secretly pleased. They grow closer. At the end of the day, as they're walking, Chan tells Shane about what happened when Yun hugged him. Shane brushes it off, saying, "It's fine, really, I've already forgotten about it." She apologizes for misunderstanding, and they make up, feeling really happy. The next day at school, they run into Dee, who greets them. He gets a phone call from the orphanage saying they can't find his grandmother, so he runs off to search for her. Shane and Chan go with him, and they all split up to look for her. Dee is incredibly worried, but he eventually finds her and calms down, sitting with her. Dai arrives, and upon seeing the grandmother's bare feet, he takes off his shoes and puts them on her. His grandmother then says that she's waiting for her grandson Dee, who loves swimming and will one day become a world champion. It's then that Dee realizes his grandmother has Alzheimer's and doesn't remember anything. He's heartbroken and breaks down crying, which makes Chan feel deeply for him. Chan stays with him to comfort him. Dai tells Chan that he's going to start swimming again to fulfill his grandmother's wish and asks him to take good care of Shane, and if he ever upsets her, to come and straighten things out. Chan reassures him, saying he'd never do anything to hurt her. Later, Chan heads to swim practice, and when he finishes, he goes to his locker. He finds the sign Shane used to cheer him on during the competition, and he drifts off in thought, missing her. He meets up with her afterward and tells her he loves her, reminding her of all he's done for her. He tells her he won't love her anymore, and if she's happy with Chin, then he'll be happy for her. Shane feels sad for him and apologizes, thanking him for everything he's done, and they part ways. A week later, it's time for the graduation exams. After the exams, the results are announced, and Shane is shocked to find out that she passed with the highest grade she's ever received. She's thrilled, and Chan is ecstatic for her, taking her out for a drink to celebrate. While they're sitting there, Shane can't take her eyes off Chan's cup, so he hands it to her, and she drinks from it, cheekily drinking both their drinks. As they walk, Shane asks about the farewell letter he was supposed to write. This makes him angry, and he says he won't write it because they'll never part ways. He lightens the mood, and she's overjoyed, walking alongside him. Later, Chan applies to the medical school at Hankook University, and his mother finds out, upset because she didn't want him applying there, but he insists because he wants to be with Shane. He calls Shane afterward, but she doesn't answer. Jin and Yoongi are happy for him after hearing he applied and got accepted. Jin mentions how he's been trying to call Shane, but she hasn't been responding or even replying to messages. Meanwhile, Shane is deeply upset, crying because she didn't get accepted to any university. Her father suggests she could work as a manager at a restaurant or something, which only makes her feel worse, thinking he's mocking her. At that moment, Chan knocks on the door. He tells her mother that Shane isn't answering her calls and wants to meet her. He takes Shane to a restaurant to understand what's wrong. She admits that everyone got into college except for her. Chan tries to comfort her, saying she can apply again next year, but this only upsets her more, and she cries about how far away next year feels. She fears she might fail again, despite all the effort. Chan encourages her, promising to help her get into the art school so she can be in the same university as him. Shane feels relieved, knowing he'll be there to support her in any challenge she faces. She starts talking non-stop out of excitement, and Chan teasingly gives her some food to make her stop talking. Then comes Dai's national swimming competition, where Shane and her father watch. Dee performs well and wins first place. During the interview with reporters and the media, Dai says on live television that he wants to cheer on his friend and wishes Shane success in the year she'll be retaking. Shane's father is thrilled and tells her that her name was mentioned in front of the whole world. However, She gets upset and starts thinking negatively. She tells him that the whole world knows she's repeating the year and that she's a failure. A year passes, and we see her training one last time for her art school entrance exams. Her friends surprise her by showing up to cheer her on since the exam is approaching. She's thrilled and thanks them, and she does well in the exams. Later, she sits with her parents to wait for the results, and they're all on edge. When the results are announced, Shane gets accepted and everyone is overjoyed. They couldn't be happier. Shane takes her friends out to celebrate, and they drink, censored, until they're completely out of it. After the celebration, Chan takes her to drop her off. As they walk, Shane thanks him for all the support he's given her, and she tells him she loves him so much. Chan then asks her, "Will you remember what happened today?" And she responds, "Of course, I've got a steel memory." He laughs and leans in for a kiss. They share a passionate moment, filled with forbidden romance. Time passes and they graduate from their respective colleges. Chan becomes a very successful doctor, so much so that he receives a job offer from the United States. One day, Shane visits the hospital where Chan works to go out with him, but overhears the hospital staff saying that Chan is leaving soon to work abroad. She's heartbroken, and later confronts him about it. He explains that he hasn't made a decision yet, which is why he hadn't told her. This only makes her more upset, saying they're supposed to be a couple and should make decisions together. She decides to break up with him, feeling that he doesn't care about her or share his life with her. As she tries to leave, Chan grabs her hand, trying to explain his side. But before he can, they hear an emergency announcement at the hospital. A patient is dying. He tells her to wait, rushing off to attend to the patient. Chan does his best to save the patient, feeling deeply saddened. When he comes back down to see Shane, she's already gone, leaving him heartbroken, thinking she's broken up with him for good. Days pass and Chan decides to leave and travel abroad. Meanwhile, Shane is working on her art project, preparing to release a book titled A Beautiful Love. 3 years later, Chan returns and runs into Shane by chance at the hospital where he's working. They're both stunned, standing in silence for a moment until Dai, now a famous celebrity with multiple endorsement deals, arrives with Shane at the hospital because her father is ill. Shane, feeling awkward, walks away without paying much attention to Chan, clearly still hurt by his departure. Dai notices this and invites Chan and their friend Jin out for dinner. At the restaurant, Dai starts to provoke Chan, asking why he always hurts Shane's feelings. Chan responds saying that he still loves her and that she never gave him a chance to explain. He wouldn't have left if she hadn't abandoned him first. Despite everything, his love for her never wavered, and he wishes she would come back to him. At that moment, Dai takes out his phone, and it turns out Shane is on the other line, having heard everything Chan said. She realizes that their breakup was just a misunderstanding and that Chan has loved her all along. Overjoyed, she decides to go see him. The next day, Shane goes to the hospital to find him. She's surprised when a group of kids hand her flowers and tell her to look the other way. When she turns around, she sees Chan holding a bouquet of flowers. He apologizes, holding a balloon that says he wants to marry her, and he proposes with a ring. Shane teases him a bit, joking around and not answering right away, but eventually she says yes. They share a romantic moment together, and afterward they head back home. That night, Chan stays over because Shane is afraid to be alone, and they enjoy a lovely night together. The next morning, Chan prepares breakfast for her and brings it to her in bed, adding a romantic touch. They spend the day tidying up the house, both feeling incredibly happy. Suddenly, Shane's parents show up at the door. When they open it, her parents are shocked to find Chan alone in the house with their daughter. After coming inside and sitting down, Shane's father gets very upset, drinking heavily. When they all get quite tipsy, Chan confesses that they've gotten back together and that he wants to marry her. Her father eventually agrees, though he rambles on about strange things. Shane's mother takes her father home, leaving the couple alone again. Later, Shane receives a message from her publisher, saying they want her at a signing event for her new book. She's overjoyed that her book has been such a success in the market. Shane immediately texts her friends, letting them know she'll be attending the signing event, and they're all thrilled for her accomplishments. They promise to be there to support her, but Chan tells her he's busy and won't be able to attend. She feels sad, wishing he could be there to witness her success and see her signing books for her fans. The next day, Shane attends the event, signing books for her fans. Out of nowhere, Chan surprises her by showing up. She's ecstatic, even more so when he asks her to sign his copy of her book. After the event, they leave together, and Shane feels overjoyed wearing her engagement ring from her charismatic fiancé, Chan. The two are incredibly happy to have achieved their dreams and be together, and that's how the series ends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our recap, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out more recaps on our channel. Take care.